We have discussed the time scales and digital transformation, how to manage your time in that, why it is important to do planning if you want to move your system. Now, another challenge that we face is the scope creep. So, what is that? Now we will discuss that. Scope creep can occur, like for example, when the project expands beyond its original goals. It can be due to the stakeholder request or any other problem. Like for example, if an IT company develop a new customer support platforms, now they agree to add some new features such as AI chatbot. They will agree to add as a new feature. The client also want a social media integration midway. Now, during they have already added that AI chatbot feature. Now the client also want a social media integration in the midway through the project. Now, what will happen? There will be an additional delay in the launch, or there can be a strain resources. So that is known as scope creep. That you know your original goal. Beyond that original goal, there can be some additional request that can be due to stakeholders. So if you face such kind of scope creep, then what you will do? Then you must define and document the project scope firstly clearly at first place. Then you can use different management protocols just to evaluate and approve any additional features. Like for example, if you the time is not enough to implement that features, then according to if you use that tools, they will evaluate whether it is possible to add any additional feature in that given period of time. Then we will move towards that additional change, otherwise we will not. So in this way, we can avoid the scope creep. Then how we can address this time scale challenge? The first that you can do is by doing a detailed risk assessment. Like you can identify the potential challenges such as technical issues, the training needs that are required, what are the user resistance. So you can do that all in the early planning process, just to avoid the problem. Then pilot testing. You like before implementing a new system on a large scale, you must implement that new system on a small scale, just to identify any issue before the full deployment. If you do that, then you can avoid the issue if when you launch or deploy your system on a large scale. Then realistic timelines means you should know how much time is required to complete that project. I mean, you should need to build a buffer period into your schedule, so it will accommodate any unforeseen delays. Then you must be to avoid that time scale problem. Then you must regularly update your stakeholders according to on their progress of the project. If a decision making is involved, then you must communicate with them on time. Then your project management must be strong. Now, to do a good project management, you can use different tools or methods. Like you can use agile, means in the form of evolution, you will complete that project in the form of modules. You can use sprints too to ensure that your project is on track. So in this way, we can address the time scale challenges. All the challenges that we have discussed, we can do. Now, when we move towards the digital transformation, there is another problem, that is cybersecurity risk. Like when we move from the manual system to the digital system, cybersecurity threats or problem is one of the common risk that is faced. Like when you use new digital assets, that are software, hardware, cloud services, then they can introduce cybersecurity risk. Means there can be a cyber attack. Cyber attack can be multiple. It can be unauthorized access. There can be phishing attacks. There can be ransomwares. There can be malicious softwares that will install unintentionally in your system. So these are all the cyber attacks. So how we can reduce these attacks? The first thing that you can do is the risk assessment. Now, before you add new digital assets, you must conduct a risk assessment. Like here, you can include evaluating the potential vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities are the patches or loopholes that are left, which can cause different problems. You can understand the assets interaction, means whether these new assets, like the uh, cloud services, if it's a new asset that you integrate, whether they are interacting with my existing system or not. If yes, what is the impact of that cyber threat? How you will respond to that unauthorized access, data breach, or malware infection. Like for example, if a company decide to integrate a third party CRM, means customer relationship management system or tool, if we move towards the digital transformation, so how we can overcome that? So the first thing that we can do is that like for example, if a company decides to integrate a third party CRM tool, so without doing the proper risk assessment, they overlook that vulnerabilities in that API. So what will happen? Now we know that vulnerability means that loopholes. Now it will allow the hackers to exploit that. They can access that customer data through that vulnerabilities. So what is the solution? Means whenever you integrate a third party API, you must perform a security evaluation. Means you can do a penetration testing, you can do a vulnerability scanning, you can do a vendor risk assessment. So you can ensure that the new assets are compliant with your organization cybersecurity policies. The second thing that you do, the problem that can occur is the compatibility with the existing infrastructure. So, as I mentioned, that the new digital assets, whether it's cloud services, new software or hardware integration, it can create different security gaps if they are not fully compatible with your existing system. Like, and then due to that incompatibility, it can lead to cyber attacks. Like if it's a retail chain, they adopt that cloud-based inventory system, but they are not sure about the secure communication with its existing on-premises point of sale system. Now, here it creates a gap, the gap between that new cloud-based inventory system and the old point of sale system. So, due to that gap, there can be different cyber criminals that can take benefit of gap, and they can also steal their data during the transmission. So, what is the solution for that? You have to ensure that the new assets are secure. You have securely configured that. They are well integrated with your existing system. you are using the encrypted connections, firewalls, or the authentication protocols that you want to use, you might ensure that everything is going well in a smooth manner. So, if you ensure that, then you move towards that new system. So, in this way, you can also reduce the risk of that cyber attacks. So, when we use that new assets, there can be increased attack service. Like when you add new digital assets, it might increase the organization's attack service. Means, for example, the total number of that entry points for cyber attacks can be increased. Like if it's an organization that deploys IoT devices means the Internet of Things, means the devices in which we embed softwares like smart cars or different sensors like that, such as you embed smart that organization may embed smart sensors in different manufacturing facilities. Now, we know that these devices are often less secure than other traditional IT systems. So, the IoT devices are often the most easiest target for attackers to gain that unauthorized access. So, what is the solution? Because IoT devices are mostly used everywhere. Smart sensor system, whether we talk about the sensors, they are embedded in each and every system. So, to avoid that attacks, that what you can do, you can implement the network segmentation. Now, what that network segmentation will do, it will isolate your IoT devices from the other critical systems. So you have to regular update the device firmwares. You have to monitor their activities just for in the sign for of different compromises that you have to do. So you can implement them. Then, due to lack of proper security configurations, there can be different cyber attacks. Now, uh, that new assets like cloud system or hardware or software often come with their default settings. Maybe that default settings may not align with that organization's security policy. So, if they're not configured properly, you have to make sure that you have do a proper security configuration. Like for example, if a hospital adds a new cloud storage service for their patient records. So that service is deployed with simply their default setting. Maybe they include a weak password policy. Maybe they have enabled the public access. So if the public access is enabled and the password is weak, anyone can view that patient data that can be sensitive. So you can change that default setting according to your organizational goal. Means you can harden the security of new assets. You can change the default credentials immediately. You can enforce the strong access controls. Means here you can do the you can implement the role-based access. Means according to that role of the customer or client or end user, you will allow them the access. Like if it's a doctor, then the doctor can only view the patient record, not the other record. If it's a patient can only review its assigned doctor history or whatever the details that are shared by the doctor. In this way, if you enforce such kind of strong access controls, we can avoid the cyber attacks. Then there can also be a supply chain risk. Means the third party vendors that are providing you digital assets can have vulnerabilities in their own system. Now the system, like whether they are providing you cloud services or different software, maybe that softwares that they are selling to you may include vulnerabilities and they haven't test them properly. So what will happen? It will indirectly they are exposing the organization to cyber threats. Like for example, if it's a financial institute, they may integrate a third party payment gateway for the online transaction. So the vendor that are providing them that payment gateway have less security policies, or there can be vulnerabilities or loopholes in that, it will lead to unauthorized access to the institute's customer financial data. So there can be a data breach, that personal data of the customer, means its financial details are exposed to the hackers, and that can lead to a loss to the customer as well as to the organization. So how you can stop that? You can review their security policies, means whenever you purchase a new software from that vendor, you have to ensure what are their security policies. You have to first review that. Before purchasing that software, you have to ensure that there is no vulnerability left. You have to do the penetration testing before using that software. So in this way, we can reduce the risk of cyber attacks. Then, when we move towards the digital assets, there can be compliance and regulatory risk. Means there can be some protection laws that we have already discussed that are mentioned here. Like if it's a multinational company, they are using the cloud storage solution, but they didn't check their data residency requirements. Then sensitive customer data is stored on their server. Maybe their server have weaker data protection laws, so that now they might have weaker data protection laws. The customer data can be leaked or can be used for illegal purpose, so that organization can face some non-compliances with the general data protection law. Now, what is the solution for that? You have to ensure that the new assets that you are using are accessed for regulatory compliances, means the solutions that are allowed for customization, the data storage, the location. They are providing you the encryption for the data. The servers that they are using have stronger data protection laws. So in this way, we can also overcome this risk. Then you can also, we have other kind of threats that can be faced when we move towards the digital transformation. Like the first one is upgraded policies for business recovery. Means the digital priority. You must focus on critical digital services for rapid restoration. Means whenever a cyber attack is faced, whenever you are moving towards the digital system, you must give priority to the important things. So what does it means? That you must shift your operational dependencies on whenever on the digital platforms, it might increase vulnerabilities. So here, what are the things that must be given to priority? Means you must take the backup of the data. You must do the real-time monitoring, and if there is some sort of problem, you should give the early warnings. There must be a cloud recovery plan. Means whenever your cloud services are failed, there must be another plan that is running. Like this, we have discussed about this service level agreement in the business and professional communication course. What is that? That according to that agreement, both parties, means whether your clients and you, must be satisfied that at this level we are going to provide you the services. So in the case of disaster, there will be no problem at that point. Then you must enable the remote work. Means you should ensure that to access the tools, your employees can access the tools anywhere during the recovery period. You must also have a recovery objective. Why we need to recover that data, at which problem we are going to recover that data. In this way, you can update your policies for business recovery. You must have the third party coordination. Means you must establish a protocol with your vendors. Means the person who are providing you these services. So if there is any issue, you can take help from them. So any questions? Then we have the last one, that is disaster recovery. So for that, if you want to recover your system from a disaster, or if you want to save it from a disaster, the first thing that you can do is the risk assessment. What is that? The assessment of the digital assets, means the daily monitoring of your cloud system, your IoT devices, your virtual infrastructure. If you do the risk assessment on regular basis, then there will not any disaster. In this way, you can manage any disaster. Then the cyber security integration, means you can address the ransomwares. What are ransomwares? Ransomwares are some sort of security threats. A cyber security threat, like it will install in your system without uh, knowing, means you don't know that that system is installed there, and it will lock your system, and the system will lock until you pay them a specific amount. That is a ransomware. So you have to integrate your cyber security in this way, that can address the ransomwares, data breach, or any other digital threat. Then you must frequently back up your data across multiple geolocation, means at different location you must back up your data. So whenever there is a disaster, you can recover. If one data place is not available, you can use the data that is stored in another place. You must monitor your system. You must regularly test the system, like by using the different digital failure scenarios. You must keep on testing your system so that you can protect your system from any disaster. So this is how, by doing these measurements, you can recover your system from disaster if you update or upgrade your system for digital transformation. So any questions till now?